Welcome to Reading English Aloud. This is Reading English Aloud Practice. Generations Explained. New vocabulary words. Verbs. Number 1, raise, raise. Number 2, value, value. Number 3, slip, slip. Number 4, share, share. Number 5, begin, begin. Number 1, raise. Bring up a child growing up. Number 2, value. See something or someone as important. Have a high opinion of. Slip. Go or move quietly or quickly without attracting notice. Share. Have a view or quality in common with others. Begin. Have its starting point at a certain time or place. New vocabulary words. Nouns. Number 1, values, values. Number 2, preference, preference. Number 3, civil rights, civil rights. Number 4, upheaval, upheaval. Number 5, access, access. Number 1, values, standards of behavior, belief of what is important in life. Number 2, preference, a greater liking for one thing over another or others. Number 3, civil rights, the rights of citizens to political and social freedom and equality. Number 4, upheaval, a sudden and serious change. Number 5, access, the opportunity to use or benefit from something. New vocabulary words. Adjectives, adverbs. Number 1, emerging, emerging. Number 2, loyal, loyal. Number 3, materialistically, materialistically. Number 4, tolerant, tolerant. Number 5, cautious, cautious. Number 1, emerging, newly formed, becoming known. Number 2, loyal, giving or showing support to someone or something. Number 3, materialistically, thinking money is the most important thing. Number 4, tolerant, a willingness to listen to the opinions that one does not necessarily agree with. Number 5, cautious, careful to avoid problems or dangers. Generations Explained. A generation is a group of people born and raised around the same time and place. They share the same values, trends, thinking, cultural preferences, and life situations. At present time, 5 generations make up our society. They are Gen Z, iGen or Centennials, Millennials or Gen Y, Generation X, Baby Boomers, and the Silent Generation. Each generation has different characteristics. The Silent Generation, born 1929 to 1945. The Silent Generation was born into a difficult time of world wars and the Great Depression. A depression is when there is a very large increase in unemployment. The Great Depression was worldwide and lasted almost a decade. Radio was the emerging technology. This generation believed a better future was possible with caution and careful planning. They are the most loyal workers as they grew up expecting a hard life. Baby Boomers, 1946 to 1964. Baby Boomers followed with civil rights movements and social upheaval. They are the first generation to value work over a personal life. Their technology was the television. They were the first generation to become consumers and spend every dollar they earned. Generation Xers, born 1965 to 1976. Gen Xers were born during a time of plenty with two working parents and easier access to education. This is where the rapid advancement of information technology begins. Generation Xers are much more independent workers. They prefer to have a life-work balance. Millennials, born 1977 to 1995. Millennials grew up materialistically and as the first global-centric generation. They know the threat of terrorism, global warming, internet scams, and corporate fraud. They grew up with a home computer and witnessed the explosive growth of online companies such as Facebook and Google. Their parents led them to believe they could grow up and become anything they dreamed of being, but they found that the boomers had let millions of jobs, especially in manufacturing, slip out of the country. The iGen, or Gen Z, born after 1996. The iGen, or Gen Z, generation are busy finishing school or planning careers and jobs. They are a tolerant generation and open to different cultures, sexual orientations, and races. They are cautious and less risk-taking, but more likely to think for themselves and not believe authority figures. They have grown up messaging with their smartphones and using social media, so prefer this type of communication over face-to-face contact. And that's the end of the article. These are my sources. Which generation do you belong to? I'm a Gen X. That's why I don't say Generation X. I say Gen X. I'm a Gen Xer. And let's look at some discussion questions. Do you ever disagree with your friends, parents or sisters and brothers on music, fashion, or values? Number 2, are your friends mostly the same age as you are, or are they older or younger? Why? Number 3, what happens to senior citizens in your culture? Are retirement homes common, or do older generations continue to live with their children? Which is better? Number 4, do you respect the elderly? How do you show your respect? Number 5, Snowflake Generation, a name given to young people who are too easily upset and offended. Does this idea exist in your culture? And let's look at some idioms about age. Generation gap. A difference in values and attitudes between generations, especially between parents and their children. I think the generation gap would be too great if I married a much younger man. Sandwich generation. Middle-aged adults who must help both their children and their aging parents. When my adult son moved back home when he couldn't find a job, I became part of the sandwich generation as I was already caring for my aging mother. Long in the tooth. A bit too old to do something. Seriously? Isn't she a bit too long in the tooth to become a professional dancer? Over the hill. A person has reached an age where they can no longer perform as well as before. He keeps forgetting the names of important clients. I think he's getting a bit too over the hill for this job. Rob the cradle. You have a romantic relationship with someone who is much younger than yourself. He must have robbed the cradle to find his date. Senior moment. An absent-minded action. I spent a good 10 minutes looking for my reading glasses before I realized I was wearing them. I hate those senior moments. And the last one is a new expression. Okay, boomer. Used to dismiss or mock the attitudes of older people, particularly baby boomers. Okay, boomer. If someone says something, you can just say, okay, boomer. It makes the person very angry, so it's not a very nice expression. That's the end of Generations Explained. Thank you for reading English aloud with me.
That was easy.